Today we are talking about love and jealousy, how it hacks your brain in the context of Love Island, which is a very hit show that has a lot of interesting concepts. Why are we addicted to this? What do the contestants go through? Does love at first sight actually exist? We're going to dive into all this and more on today's episode of Sidenote.
On today's episode of Love Island.
Well, I mean, obviously Love Island is over now. It just had its finale. We won't spoil anything, but it's such a fascinating phenomenon. Even if you don't watch it, you know, trying to make people fall in love by just meeting them and putting them on this island together. And we've been very addicted to the last 2 seasons.
Of the American one.
Of the American version. We hadn't watched it before, but it brought up just so many interesting questions that we thought there'd be some cool science behind it. And love is fascinating.
And it kind of is a science experiment. So for those who don't watch, like, it's hard to explain why it's such a hit. I guess it's just because, honestly, they're really psychologically messing with these people in a way that I'm like, is this immoral? Like, is this actually ethically okay? But yeah, they essentially bring people together, like young, hot singles. And then they slowly try to tempt them with like other singles. They make like an uneven amount. You have to couple up to stay on the show. So there'll be more boys than girls or girls than boys. And then you have this sort of like...
if you're not chosen,
this like sad, like this really devastating way of getting sent home. It's very ruthless. Like America votes who they like, who they don't like, and they tell them live. It has like Truman Show aspects. It's kind of dystopian. And I think... a lot of people sort of talk about it as entertainment, but I think the reason I'm fascinated with it is because it's like honestly dark and like,
which I think a lot of
fucked up.
Very popular reality television ultimately is. It's like kind of looking into the darker parts of the human psyche, or that's what fascinates people. But I think we should like save some of our Love Island chats.
Okay.
Like we'll give more of our takes on it without spoilers, but I think it would be fun to just like talk about some of these premises around love first. Like the first one I wanted to investigate was, does love at first sight exist? Like, is that a real thing? And it turns out there's science on it, but I'm curious, like what is your feeling? Did you love me at first sight?
No. Yeah, like I do not believe in love at first sight. Like that's insane to me because, well, I just also think like connection is so based on like vibe and personality and like the amount of people who I've seen who I thought were attractive and then you spend like 10 minutes and you're like, okay, no, or vice versa is so like obvious to me that I can't imagine seeing someone and ever really knowing enough about them to ever think that that could be possible.
I guess the premise would be like you might see someone and be like, wow, I could be in love with that person, and then meet them and then they also live up to the expectations of personality. And then you might be like, wow, love at first sight is real. But there was an actual study that looked into around 400 people. They were put through dating processes. Like some of it was speed dating, some of it was following up like actual dates. Out of those 400 or so people, 32 said they had love at first sight. So that they're like trying to evaluate these people and what's different from the others and does it actually exist? But what they realized in their analysis is that the single greatest predictor of love at first sight is physical attraction. So they ultimately realized like the more you found a person attractive, the way higher the odds are that you have quote unquote love at first sight. And ultimately it just comes down to like
are they hot
and sexual attraction. And yes, you might have that feeling like, oh, I'm really drawn to this person. But in almost every case, it said almost 90% of love at first sight were predictable from ratings of physical attraction. So they were like highly correlated with if you found someone very attractive, you were way more likely to think you fell in love at first sight.
Well, I guess like attraction is like you can present yourself, like the way you dress, the vibe you give off. I guess I'm just thinking of the way you dress can be like a huge indicator of your personality.
Yeah, you're like signaling like what kinds of things you like, how you act. Like there is more than just a physical appearance. Like it says more than your attractive level.
But then the amount of times that someone dresses, then you talk to them, you're like, oh, that's off.
Yeah. Some other things that the study found though was like for a lot of people, love at first sight is actually a retrospective illusion. So
I can see that.
We might, in our relationship 10 years later, say yes. I mean, even though you already yelled no.
Yeah.
You might say like,
I thought you were someone else.
We're in love at first sight. And I think a lot of couples do that because you're like recreating the story of how you met, even though a lot of people meet, they don't actually like necessarily have a distinct meeting. Like how did we meet? Online.
You messaged me on Facebook and I thought you were someone else. Like I literally was like flirting with someone else. So obviously not love at first sight.
Right. But even when people think that they have love at first sight, sometimes it is a reconstruction. And then one other factor was people who score higher on romanticism. So people who say they're like self-identified romantics.
Yeah.
As well as people who feel strong effects from mutual eye contact. And from that often assume a deeper connection, are more impacted by love at first sight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you have to make eye contact for it to be sight.
And you have to sort of like believe in the idea of it, right? Like if you're a romantic, you might believe this idea that you have a soulmate and there's someone out there that you'll just know. And that's what like the Love Island show is kind of playing on. It's like, can you just like meet someone and immediately become hooked up with them? And then will that lead to an actual
closed off
connection? And I mean, last season there were a couple that had that.
If you watch Love Island, again, we've only watched 2 seasons, and so we are not experts. But last season, season 6, everyone should watch. It was honestly beautiful, and I actually feel deep infatuation with the couples that I do believe fell deeply in love. Miguel and Leia, oh my God. Serena is the most beautiful person in the world.
But it's also like interesting that
I can't breathe.
Speaking of love at first sight related to attraction, it's like you just love the couples that are attractive.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay,
I mean, they're all attractive.
There is someone named Miguel who is the hottest man in the world. And it's because, I guess I did have love at first sight with Miguel because he was objectively one of the hottest people I have ever seen in my entire life. And then the humor starts.
Right.
The self-deprecation, the like sort of lack of like overt like masculinity that so many other are like pretending to have. He just, I can't even talk about him. I get semi-hard. It's like he is so hot, but it's like it was physical attraction, and then his personality he was the most interesting, funny guy I've seen on a reality show like ever.
Wow.
Oh my God, I can't breathe.
Yeah,
I can't even think about him.
Still talk about him a lot.
He's so hot. And I also was like, I think about him all the time. I woke up this morning thinking about him. Like I actually have a serious problem.
That's crazy.
It's because they still come up on like my TikTok or whatever. And I just
spoiler, they are still together.
He
found a love connection for real.
And whatever. I mean, that's not even about this season of Love Island in which the guys were absolute duds. But like, I do think that like, this last season was very beautiful, and this season was extremely like toxic and negative, and I think that's part of why people liked it. I think
it was messy, but it ultimately was entertaining.
And I think it made
last season was also dramatic and messy, but it ended with a lot of real couples. Whereas this season was like not very many.
Oh God, are any
couples.
of them real? Like I don't know. I feel like this season it made people reflect on like the current state of like the world. Like there were like people called it like the incel season because like the men were like
kind of controlling,
really odd to watch. Like one guy like got kissed by like a bunch of girls blindfolded and just rated them all as a 6. I was like, that is an extremely odd like power move. It's like I saw the reaction after that because I felt so weird. I was like, wait, you just kissed like 10 hot girls?
Yeah.
And you even felt the audacity to say that?
I know. You'd be like, I'm on a TV show, and that's also awkward and mean to say.
Exactly. It's like, just choose the best one and say 10.
You're a bad kisser.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and it's like, okay, I feel like people were comparing that to like sort of like a movement of men trying to like keep women down to sort of like, and then there was this like guy named Ace who like I felt disdain for because I mean, he's like 22, so I have to like be really sensitive. Like if I was 22, I can only imagine I probably would have just like shit myself and left immediately. Like I would have not been able to handle any of it. But he just was like very controlling. He was very like, he just treated women as like these objects. Like I can just imagine the exhaustive nature of dating, heterosexual dating in that age group now with the internet, with like this self-awareness. There was also quite a bit of people on the show, Truman Show vibes, being self-aware of being filmed, and you could like see this fakeness. Like it was just like fascinating because you're like, it sort of feels like a show that's like a product of like the influencer era. Yeah. And it's just like,
but that's the nature of like, not to talk too much about like the elements of the reality television. Obviously
you've been on
a reality show, but I thought it was interesting because I think last season was so like quote unquote special. It was a hit. We'd never watched it before, and all of our friends were like, "You've got to watch."
I cried
season.
4 times because a woman named Serena is just stunning and pure and beautiful.
And I think it's actually for the best that the show didn't repeat that the same. Like they could never do that again. So it's kind of interesting that as the sequel to like the most famous American season, they just had like this messy, different take where people were kind of strategizing and overly self-aware of how they were being perceived by a TV audience, and which was wrong, by the way. They all realized halfway through like who they thought were the cool ones.
That was interesting.
The audience was falling in love with the more authentic, real people who weren't constructing their image.
Yeah.
And
Amaya
I think
Papaya.
from like a reality standpoint, that was, despite the season being
like I'll
worse,
watch next year because of that.
And hopefully next year will provide a different angle, because you get bored of the same thing after a while. And I think it just speaks to, like, I saw people online talking about, I love the show Big Brother, which I was on. And it kind of used to have these elements of like chaos and like kind of questionable moral decisions by production, and they've stepped away and made it, like, people call it the Nickelodeonification, like Nickelodeon, like the kids show, of like Survivor and Big Brother. But this goes to show people are fascinated by, like, if you can put people in these scenarios that are like, they are kind of ambiguous on a moral and ethical level, but it's fascinating to watch people have to deal with that.
We're in a fucked up world. It's like, obviously people want ruthless entertainment. It's literally like Gladiator. It's like, at this point, people are like on their phones. They're just probably watching porn every day. That it's like they need like fucked up shit. They don't want, like, it's like,
and it's like we want drama.
It's
and like
sad, but
it's even the reason The Traitors is like popular, because it's like manufactured drama. It is obviously, this is more real in the sense that people's emotions are more at stake. But The Traitors has found a way to tap into, like, let's just dramify this. We're reality television. We're not supposed to be actually real. Everyone knows that. We're supposed to like push the level of that. But something with Love Island I find fascinating, and thinking about the science of it, is like why people are so, I've never seen watch parties so big for any other show. Like, I'm seeing videos of thousands of people in theaters and outdoor parks watching this show together.
I don't get that.
I think a lot of it is like, it's sports, it's mirror neurons. It's like there is something really special when you can watch someone fall in love for real, or you can watch someone, I'm going to say a Gen Z word, crash out for real, because everyone has these kinds of personal experiences, I think. And then to watch somebody else go through also something kind of traumatic, your brain is like firing in those same ways, and you're experiencing it without the danger of it, actually.
The Gen Z lexicon is so weird, like crash out, them all saying standing on business. Like all these things that are like, I do believe it's like a lot, mostly like black, like language that I think that like Gen Z has co-opted, that I'm so fascinated by that discussion. Kind of like, I feel like millennials, we had to talk about that a lot more, but now it just feels like Gen Z just all talk
without it being a discussion.
And it's like, I'm just sort of like in that show. There's also like, it's a very diverse cast. There are a lot of black people on the show, but the white people just go right into it. It's a little bit like, as a millennial, I'm like, what's happening here?
Right.
But one thing that I looked into, because I think what's fascinating about this show, and also like really fucked up, and something I think is so scary, is like the way they like, it's just about jealousy. Like they're just, the second that like a couple seems to like each other, they're like, they say a new bombshell has entered, and they just like bring in 2 fucking hot people, and they're just like, good luck.
Mess up and make one of them be like, I actually kind of like that person more.
Or they'll like start them, like the bombshells will walk in like, honestly, like ridiculous lingerie, and they're like, the task is you have to like lap dance everyone, and you're just like, it's just like fucked up, like what you would go through. So I looked into like the concept and neuroscience of jealousy, which was really fascinating, and then I had a really good idea for a challenge on Love Island.
Okay. So let's hear it.
Jealousy is a perception of threat of loss of a valued relationship. So it could be like a friend, it could be family, but in most cases it's a romantic partner. Like losing value to an imagined rival or like a real rival. So like there's a big part of this that's actually like in your head only.
Okay.
On the show, it's a real rival because they walk in lingerie, but sometimes a lot of men just like make things up and go crazy.
But even on the show, it might be a perceived rival, but say your partner might be like, you don't have to worry about them, but you might still be worried, right? Like you can be imagining these scenarios.
Yeah, but like it's real in the sense that there's like a hot bombshell over there. Right. Whereas like in some of the research, like the people like are like
building
they're actually delusional
stories that don't exist.
And it has to affect your cognition and your behavior.
Okay.
I was like, that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, obviously cognition and behavior is important. Like it needs to have that much of an impact. So it's a widely experienced emotion, but it's only considered pathological or morbid. So this is studies on pathological jealousy.
Okay.
When it goes beyond a level of possessiveness that is not accepted by society. And I was like, that's interesting because I feel like when you watch Love Island, you're like Huda, like she was this character that like got really jealous of her partner Jeremiah, obviously like going on a date with someone else because that's what they do in the show.
Yeah.
But she sort of like had this possessive, like her famous like my dream date.
Right.
Like, and it's like society is watching and viewing her as overreacting, and therefore she might have some of this pathological like jealousy issues that like I think people are more interested in. Like a lot of people on the show are obviously jealous because they can't not be, but they maybe have a more grounded approach to it and therefore aren't experiencing morbid pathological jealousy. Whereas Huda was, and she went actually crazy, #crash out or whatever. And it was fascinating to watch. But I think that's like what people were interested in, is probably thinking like, I felt like that before.
Yeah.
She's acting crazy. Therefore, this is
even in
interesting.
her own words, being able to, after the fact, really like look at it that way, because obviously it's not great to call a woman crazy, but like she, as she was the star of the show for the first like weeks, because it was all around her and this other guy, and the relationship being so toxic, and them both like causing insecurity in each other and jealousy, and it was like very intense.
It was wild, and it was
to a point where it was hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah, and it was honestly the only real part of the show because it was so interesting.
Because no one else liked each other.
And the joke was like that he had to go on like a date with this other girl. They literally had like a bottle of like shitty champagne on a beach, like, and then they come back and they're like, what date did you go on? And then the girl was like, oh, it was actually like a beach date. And then she's all jealous. She's like, oh wow, a beach date, my dream date. And he knows that. And it's like, okay, well,
it's also like he didn't choose
and
it.
like no one's, I don't know if everyone's dream date is a beach.
Just sitting on a beach.
Yeah. It honestly was so poorly filmed too. It looked like the worst date.
I know.
So the incidence of pathological romantic jealousy is estimated to be in 0.5 to 1% of the population.
Oh, whoa.
So
okay.
like 1% of people like have this neurological issue where they will have
like go past this level that most people will in terms of jealousy.
Yeah, we'll be like, you crashed out. And then a study found that 15% of men and women have been subjected to violence due to a jealous partner, with 20% of violent acts committed by men being due to romantic jealousy.
Oh, whoa.
So it's like,
that's scary.
it's kind of an interesting stat where like 1% have this pathological, but 20% of men's violence. It's like, the point is that they're studying this because it actually has real impact on society. And then what I thought was interesting about jealousy is that there's not an obvious face for it. Like, unlike other emotions like anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise, you can like,
you can't necessarily read jealousy from point blank without more context.
That's why I was like, the show can be interesting. Like Huda like let people know that she was jealous, whereas other people were probably jealous but knew they were being filmed, and you can hide it. But they said that the face of jealousy is likely a mix of like anger, fear, sadness, and surprise. But like,
that is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a sub emotion in terms of like, when you're just happy or excited, you can read that just from looking at someone's face.
Anger, you can picture. Disgust, you can picture. Fear. Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. And so pathological jealousy is associated with altered parts of your brain. So altered frontostriatal circuitry, ventral medial prefrontal cortexes are actually different in people with this. And it's related to dopaminergic and serotonin signaling. And it's like a habitual behavior that's like formed over time. And they also found 105 patients with pathological jealousy actually, of 105 patients, 76.7% had neurodegenerative gray matter in their frontal and temporal lobes, showing that jealousy like could be based on like neurodegeneration in the brain. Like there are actually like people who can't maybe help it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so interesting. There's all these ways they literally make people feel jealousy by like showing their partners kissing someone else with like AI images, and then they like study their brains, and they're like, there's very specific activation in like the basal ganglia, like it's essentially like a real response neurophysiologically that like everyone goes through to differing degrees. Therefore, it's like any other disorder. Like you'll be on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing I thought was so interesting was that they were like, due to this, they think oxytocin, like intranasal administration of oxytocin, could help to modulate jealousy.
For people who have, or in the extreme cases, if you're really jealous, it's like sniff oxytocin and you'll be less jealous.
So it's like every 30 minutes, six sniffs while being with your partner. In both men and women, established perceived attractiveness of the face of the existing partner they did it with, enhanced activation in the parts of the brain that like reward system that would help to mitigate the parts of the brains that fire during jealousy. And then also they said that another study, intranasal oxytocin influenced men in a relationship to keep a greater distance between them and other attractive females and reduce their interest in erotic pictures of other women. So like literally doing oxytocin with their partner made them less interested in like the photos of other women, like from their brains being scanned. It can help existing relationships to like essentially like deal with, maybe it's like someone cheated, or like it could be like in couples therapy.
Confidence in your relationship.
And it can repair like issues, and therefore could also help like men be less violent. But what I thought was so interesting was like they should do like an oxytocin intranasal spray like thing on like all the couples get together and sniff oxytocin together on Love Island, and then like bring the bombshells in and see if they're like, I actually don't even see that hot giant jump.
There's a science version of this show where it's like you're actually assisting them to fall in love. Instead of trying to test them, you're like, you're a couple, and now we're gonna do everything in the science notebook to like make you fall in love.
Yeah,
we're gonna drug you. We're gonna like set up certain kinds of dates that will actually improve.
They could literally
21 questions that make you fall in love. Like, what are all the little science things you can do to improve a relationship?
They could also drug them just like in the room, like without them knowing.
Well, that's fucked.
Well, whatever. It's intranasal oxytocin. Who gives a shit? Like, just be like the oxytocin. Like the viewers get to watch them get like oxytocin and then see if they like can't. I mean, there's a lot. That's like the least ethical issue for this show in many ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like secretly drugging someone would be probably the least ethical thing you could do.
I mean, yeah, I guess they're giving them alcohol. But yeah, like there is just so much of the show that is rooted in jealousy that I think it's such a complicated emotion that I do believe a lot of people are watching to see other people have to deal with something that they probably would like have a really hard time with.
You get to live vicariously and see how someone manages it without having to bear the trauma yourself, I think is why it's fascinating, right? Like it is, I mean, that's even like the premise of Survivor when it first came out, is like, how will people react in these extreme conditions? Before it became such a strategy game, the fascination was like, what happens when you strip people of everything and they're starving and they're on an island and they don't have the comforts? What will they be like? And so we've had so much reality TV that people are kind of bored of these premises, but I think Love Island provides one of them again to say, what happens when we show you what jealousy looks like, when we give you the chance to fall in love, when we XYZ related to relationships, it is fascinating.
I wonder, like,
it's kind of novel.
It does feel like there is not that much jealousy that plays out between like the boys and the girls. Like they're always like, when they're leaving, like, I love you, man, like best friends for life.
Like within one gender.
Yeah, like I wish there was more men fighting, honestly. Like it feels like,
I'm sure in other seasons, like we have only watched 2, and there's the British one is notoriously really good as well. I'm sure there's dynamics where people are fighting over the same people, like the opposite gender or whatever.
Well, the reason that like I hated Ace and Nick at the beginning was because there was this guy Jeremiah who was with Huda, and they kept being like, you need to like open up your like relationship, you're so closed off, blah blah blah, even though they both were with their own couples. And then this like hot ass bombshell comes in. Jeremiah starts flirting with her, and I think there was they pitched it as the men felt jealous of how he was able to just like wheel this hot girl immediately that they might have all wanted, and then they kicked him off. Yeah. So like that was being pitched to us as like a jealous situation, but that's why I wish he came back or stayed on the show to see that jealousy play out within the guys.
Right. That would have been an interesting narrative to watch as well. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to bring up that is related to jealousy, and my other studies were on love addiction, which I thought was a really interesting term. And maybe you've experienced people who are like really craving and wanting to like fall in love and be in love. But love addiction is classified as a psychological condition characterized by an overwhelming obsession and dependence on a romantic partner, leading to significant distress and impairment in daily functioning.
That's so interesting.
So that's like kind of linked to the jealousy aspect, right? Like it sounds like you are become so reliant on this person for your like assurance that it takes up your mind. And I'm sure jealousy is a layer of that.
Is it like you are constantly in relationships with different people, or is it just like...
In this case, it's not about different relationships. It's about when you are in that relationship, like you need to be spending all your time with them. You're obsessed with them. When you're not with them, you're like emotionally distressed.
It's giving Huda Jeremiah.
Withdrawal symptoms and stuff like that. And so what this study found was that your attachment style predicts your behavior in love connections. Now, attachment styles is like a type of psychology that looks at like the way that you were raised by your parents.
Wait, we should do a video on that.
Yeah.
I mean, what is this called? A podcast.
And so like, you know, there's like, you probably heard the phrases like insecure attachment, secure attachment, avoidant attachment. And a lot of the like psychology behind it talks about, you know, maybe you were treated a certain way by your parent and that was their form of like showing love or not showing love. And so as a result, if you are like insecurely attached, you may be more anxious and have more love addiction because you need that approval. And so they found that participants with insecure attachment styles, like if you were anxiously attached, you have a higher chance of being love addicted. Whereas if you are like an avoidant attached person, because you're avoidant, like you are able to avoid some of those feelings you don't become addicted because your strategy as a person is to literally cut things off and avoid them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be the one.
Yeah, so it said anxious attachment is marked by a preoccupation with relationships and a constant need for reassurance and approval, worrying excessively about the stability of their relationships. So that kind of reminded me of the Huda moment. Not to say that like none of it was justified. They're in a very intense situation, but I think there were like moments where he, like Jeremiah, for example, just needed to like process and have some time, and instantly she was stressed that something was really wrong with the relationship if anything changed, and it would like go into a spiral of like her needing constant reassurance. I don't mean to put this all on Huda either. Like I know people have lots of thoughts about Huda.
They do.
Yeah, and she came out with the most fans, but a lot of people also like call her the most. No, Huda came out with the most.
What?
Huda has over 3 million followers on Instagram.
You're also really funny. Like you're like a follower, an Instagram nerd. Like the amount of times this weekend you were like, well, you know, he's at 1.7 and she's actually at 1.4, which is fascinating. And it's like, whoa. Okay.
Well, it's very rare for an American television show to get someone 3 million followers.
I know. I also think you're so obsessed with like Survivor and Big Brother, and I think you're like
people who win Survivor get like 3,000 followers.
I know, and I can tell you're obsessed with that idea because it is odd.
It is interesting.
It's odd.
And
it's very odd.
It's why Big Brother is always fascinating to me because, and it makes sense, you're like really spending 5 days a week with these people, watching them fall in love. Of course, your type of connection to them is different than what you see on a show like Survivor. Yeah, obviously follower counts don't matter that much, but they're fascinating to me. In context of a show, to give you a sense of like who is being connected with. Or it may not be that people like Huda more, but they might be more compelled to follow her because she was like a very divisive character.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I just went on Love Island by the numbers Instagram. TikTok gains in week 6. Huda 1.3 million. Nick. And then Amaya. Wow. And then Huda beat Amaya. Wow. Mm-hmm. I guess like Amaya is this sort of like beloved character who is so funny and authentic, and like I can imagine, I know what her Instagram will be. It'll be like her being cute and saying funny things. Whereas Huda, maybe you're a bit like, what will that be? It could be like,
yeah, and Huda was the main narrative for like half of the season, so it makes sense that she.
And her face card never declines. My God, she's so. Hot. They're all me being like, she's so hot. I'm like, they're all so hot. Actually, I will say the men were such duds, and it kind of is like Love Island casting. Like I literally bike around Toronto every day, and I could find hotter men. Like
yeah, and it's like it'd be different if they were just like, okay, they're not so hot on the surface, but then you realize they've got these like amazing personalities that make them so interesting. But this season, it felt like they're all just kind of like boys. That none of them felt like men. And they didn't really know themselves.
Oh my God, Cordell. was
Yeah, exactly. They're like
beautiful and so funny and so sweet. So no, but I'm just like, Cordell was so.
This is the previous season.
Sorry, this is the love season. There was like this guy who was just. I feel like he was a boy and then he became a man on the show. Maybe they were hoping for that, but it was like...
Maybe. It just felt like one note with the guys this season.
Yeah, it's like, okay, fine. They walk in and they're like, obviously everyone on the show is objectively hot.
Right.
But then they start... Like Pepe, I was so excited about because he was like this tall, hot man and he was just such a snooze. Like he became so unattractive as it went on because it was just like, you're so boring. That they must sit down with them. Like, can't they expect...
It'd be interesting to like see the casting process and what actually goes into their choices.
One of the best things is that the first episode they force them to like dance like under like a heart, and it's the most insane thing to watch. If you've
never watched Love Island, you just have to get through a couple like 2 or 3 episodes. The first episode, I remember when we first started, I was like, I cannot believe my friends asked me to watch this show. I'm so embarrassed for them. And then it became so addictive. We came here for love. But the first episodes are hard to watch because it's so corny and you don't know the people yet. And it's just like the cheesiest. Everyone's got a chip on their shoulder trying to like prove something and they make them dance and it's so awkward. But push through it if you're giving it a chance.
Wait, Brian was so hot. I'm looking at them all now. Brian is like... a bombshell, like, and he had a great personality.
He grew on me more. I didn't necessarily. He was a Casa Amor boy, not a bombshell.
But also, it took like not much to be the hottest guy by being just like a little bit funny and nice and like
and having that little like X factor
and a good kisser.
Sexy.
Sometimes they kiss, and I'm like, yeah, this is Gen Z. These people don't know how to kiss. That's the other thing. They're so young. Like I can see why it might be hard to find like a man that is like hot because they're literally 22. Also, the reason why I think that these people get such more followers than something like Survivor is I think that people watching Survivor are like millennials and boomers. Like it's a show for
young people.
Old people.
Oh, like the
Whereas
show.
Love Island, like when I go online, I'm like, it's for.
People.
I always think if I had a kid right now, if I was like 45, it would be the show that I like would want to watch, but I wouldn't want my kid to watch.
Right.
That I'd have to lie to them and be like, you can't watch that. And then when they go to bed, I would like not tell them. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, it's one of those shows that like I bet kids probably shouldn't be watching, which makes them want to watch it more. Yeah. It's all TikTok. Like I can imagine the amount of like Gen Z and even below that are like hooked on this show who are so chronically online.
It is that for sure. But some legacy shows like when Big Brother's on in Brazil, those people get like 4 million followers. It's just like a kind of show that allows you to really see and connect with people. But I do agree. Like it's rare for a reality show on cable television to pull so many young people.
Yeah, that's all I mean is like Survivor and is an old show.
Yeah.
Like it's like for old people and like young people are probably just like, especially if it's Nickelodeonified now, there's nothing for them to get into it now.
Yeah.
That is just like we're the millennials like watching it, whereas like the people on TikTok, on Instagram who care about followers, who want to be influencers, who are influencers, watch this show.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my God, it's so fucked up though. Like honestly, like don't let your kids watch it.
It is, questionable. And I don't mean to like promote that, but it makes you realize that it's like, why people watch scripted television because it can push the boundary on things that you wouldn't experience normally, right? Like watching like Adolescence as the example that we just watched is like, you're seeing something that's really interesting and unique and kind of pushes a layer of like not questionable, but it's like, oh my gosh, like it makes your heart race. Same with like The Pit, all these shows that are opening your eyes to stuff that does exist, but it's like pushing a boundary with what you're comfortable with. And so I think this like good reality shows that are modern are doing that. And the ones that aren't good anymore, it's like they did it at a time and they've lost that ability to connect with like a modern day sensibility. Whereas obviously Love Island is like a phenomenon right now that I know it has been for a while and we're like on the bandwagon.
Oh, we are so late.
For sure, it's like the most phenomenon it's ever been now.
For America.
For America, but that's still a big deal. It's like, I just think like something has happened over the last couple of years for this show. And I don't know if it's because they've changed the format or if they've landed some element or if it's just like culture hitting, but it's in its 7th season.
Because they found Serena. And they found
last
Miguel,
season, last season helped
Leah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. Anyway.
But like, yeah, it's also so much more fucked up than Adolescence because it's like real people. Like there are people who
Yes, that's what makes it fascinating on an even more real level, because you're like, these are real people's lives.
And it was a toxic season. Actually, yeah, there were numerous people kicked off because they found social media of them saying like horrible racial slurs, who were then kicked off the show in real time. So then there was this fascinating Truman Show, like watching them leave, have to go home, to their families, find out that they've been dragged through the mud. Like, it's really disturbing, because it's like, it's just, that's disturbing in a real life way that like adolescence isn't.
Even outside of the like people getting kicked off for doing awful things, people become hated on this show.
And I hate Ace.
Yeah, but then you're like, he is a real person. Who wouldn't have known he was hated till he gets off the show. And of course, not everyone hates him, but like, you know, people like to find a villain, and he was filling that role, and the show can edit him in a way that not perpetuates that.
It's like, I literally was like, there's this one episode where Ace, like, they're like, rank who you think is literally the best or the worst, and this Ace guy, of course, is like, I think America probably thinks I'm the best.
Yeah.
So he puts himself at 1, and then they bring out the results, and he slowly has to move down the list, realizing that America hates him.
Yeah.
And I was at home, like, eating popcorn, like with like evil red eyes, like popcorn flying out of my mouth, being like, ha ha, I'm a fucking loser. And it's like, it brings out this like deep, dark thing that then it's like, that's not fiction. Like, this person, literally, it's also live. So he went through that like hours before in the Truman Show. It's so fucked up. And
it's questionable. That's what I think is also like the ethically questionable part, is like, these are real people, and it's easy to forget that they're not like on a TV show, you're made to hate certain people, right? Like, there are literally villains in shows, and of course, a show like this, if they can construct a villain, that can bring a lot of tension and make it compelling.
It's the only reason, and then also
you want to see them lose.
It's on,
and people vote on the show, so it's like you get the chance to see how the audience is reacting. But I just think that's a lot for someone to have millions of people hate them.
Yeah,
who's a normal person.
Also live. It's like 5 times a week, and like, it's so much legitimately like trash TV that I also, like, when like things started to become a little bit more normal and lovey, I was like, fuck it, I'm not watching this stupid show. Like, the only reason I was staying was because there was an evil person. The second the tension left, it's like, well, I'm gonna go watch. Like, it's not a good show. It's not like, like, we're using other shows like Adolescence as an example. Like, when you're watching, you're like, okay, this is fascinating. I want to watch this because it's good. Like, it's actually an objectively horrible show. It's cheesy. It's stupid. So if they can't give you that stuff, then no one's going to watch it, because it's not actually that interesting without that dark part. It's so fucked up. Oh my God.
Will you watch next season?
Well, that's the same thing. Like, I'm I'll start it, and if I'm in any way like, bored or there's no tension, then I will immediately turn it off. Because I also don't have very much patience for reality TV. Like, I don't.
And it's a big commitment. It truly is every day for like an hour and a half.
It's crazy. The first episode is like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, that's like a Scorsese film.
Yeah, and I'm even like, I watch Big Brother, which is like 3 times a week, and that's hard to keep up with.
I mean, we did figure out the fast forwarding, like when they do a challenge and just like slow-mo, like grind on each other, like.
We're usually skipping.
I mean, I guess some people are definitely watching it for that. But
but we were just, if you fall behind, it's really hard to catch up without fast forwarding.
And I didn't find any of the guys hot, so I was just like, I don't want to watch this. Whereas like last season, I would have been like slow-mo Miguel's like heart rate challenge or whatever. The guys were such duds. Like,
but fascinating cultural show of the moment. Would you recommend people to watch it if they haven't?
No, I would recommend you watch season 6 of American for an Oscar-worthy look into love, joy,
and
beauty, drama.
It was a good mix of like, the show also constructs drama through like the way that people have to get kicked off and voted off and this kind of stuff. So there's elements of like the love story, but then there's elements of the show's production that does, you go, oh my God, it would be so hard to be them and have to go through this.
And like this season you had Olandria, who was like so charismatic and stunning, and she was great, but like the women were also duds. So
there wasn't like a ton. Like last season
Shelley
just had like
nothing.
so many. Yeah.
Iris, like people liked her because she was like
normal, but
a little bit normal.
Yeah.
Like there was just nothing good about this cast. Whereas last season, like
they were enigmatic.
Oh my God. Like the women were hilarious, like genuinely funny, genuinely like inside and out beautiful. And the men, I think in general, the men are always duds compared to the women because women are just
even last season, the women were better than the men. Yeah.
And so I would say watch season 6 for sure. Not this season.
Okay. Why don't we take a little break and then come back for some What You Learned This Week. So mine is about the single most important thing that can make you live longer. And what's yours about?
Gay.
Oh, about gay.
About
Perfect.
gay.
Oh, I wish there was a really good gay Love Island.
Oh my God.
Would love that.
But then they'd all just like hook up with each other.
So what? That would also be like interesting that it's
But
like
how would you divide them bottoms and tops?
No, you don't need to divide them. You just like throw them all in. And then you go like, now there's 2 more bombshells. What's going to happen? Anyone can have anyone.
Do you remember like that show Next? Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
There was like gay versions of Next. So like it was literally
crazy.
like this like fucked up beginning of the seed of Love Island concepts on MTV reality show where a guy would be standing outside and there'd be like 4 guys on a bus pull up and they'd one by one date the guy.
Yeah.
And then the guy would choose one.
And at any point he could be like next, which would mean like
there's a hilarious
maybe in the middle of a date.
It was usually heterosexual, so there'd be a guy outside, 4 girls inside, or a girl outside, 4 guys inside. There's a really fucked up funny one where the guy's outside and this girl's leaving. She falls off the bus and then she stands up and he's like, next. But in the gay one, the 4 gay guys on the bus would just start hooking up with each other on the bus. They wouldn't even leave, and the guy outside would be like,
where are they?
Yeah, like it's like there is like this.
It would be of a different show.
Yeah, but I
need other constraints for it. But
I do think that like so many gay men and queer people like Love Island, which is such a hetero show, that I do think there are ways they should probably like.
But it's like weirdly every single song you hear is just like a gay bop. Like there's a lot of bad songs.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like they should probably figure out how to queerify this
Yeah.
show because
It kind of is.
no, it's not. The guys,
It's not queerified, but it's like obviously gay people love it as it is.
yeah.
Like it has enough elements of like girl power, hot girls, hot guys. Like
And gay people hate themselves, so like if it was a bunch of gay guys, like gay guys wouldn't.
It wouldn't be
watch it.
supported.
Yeah, that's true.
okay, we'll come
Anyways,
back
on
with
that
more
note,
on
okay.
gay. I will take a little break and we'll be back shortly.